So we use two events, click that gets the ball to disappear, and then once its disappear animation is done, it calls restart ball falling, this function here, because we've added the animation end event listener on the ball container sprite after we added the disappear animation. And this is fine for animation that just runs once and then stops. Then we can do something else afterwards. But say we wanted something to happen every time the ball has reached the bottom here. For instance, we could say we want to move it at a different position. If we in our CSS had another position 2 class here, and we added set that to another left, say 20 v, then we would be able to have the ball container and add the class position 2. And if we wanted that to happen every time it reached the bottom, we change it from not being there to being there to not being there, and so on. So in JavaScript, if we start here and add an animation end event to our ball, that won't work. But let's just try it anyway. Find the ball and add the event listener called animation end, and let that call a function created here that we could say ball reached bottom. And then we console log that. Reach bottom. And just remember to add it here. And if I just make it a bit prettier. So this should let the ball, when the ball has reached the bottom, it should call this function. But it doesn't, because the animation on the ball container, it never ends. As we see here, the falling animation has an iteration count of infinite. If we set it to an iteration count of 1, like this, then it would work once it has reached the bottom. But then the animation also stops. So we want it to stay infinite, but we want something to happen every time it repeats. So we take this word iteration. That means how many times it iterates. And if we look at the events we have available to us, there is one called animation iteration. Occurs when a CSS animation is repeated. So that event should happen every time this animation ends here and starts over. If we try and change animation end to animation iteration, save, then we should see console log, it has reached the bottom and has reached the bottom again and again and so on. So then we just want something to happen every time we reach the bottom. So we select the element again, the ball container, and we want to toggle our new class called position 2. So this should give us, now we have position 2, and now we don't have it, and now we have it. And of course later on we'll see how to make it much more advanced than just toggling a class. But the main thing is animation iteration makes something happen every time an animation repeats.